You did have, oh, okay.
Okay. My presentation is on the SpaceX proposal to NASA using Polaris Dawn to reboost the Hubble Space Telescope. Now, a lot of you remember the Inspiration 4, where 4 private citizens went up in a Crew Dragon for 3 days, and it was paid for by Jarek Isaacman, and he's a billionaire, and he paid the approximately, they didn't say what the price was for that, but it was either about 200 million or a little less.
Gary,
yes.
you have his address.
Yeah. Well, you can go to the Polaris Dawn website. Just Google Polaris Dawn and it'll get you there. And then they talk about the people. So you can communicate with them that way. But, and during that time, they also raised funds for the St. Jude Hospital. And they raised over $240 million for St. Jude. And $100 million of it came from Jared himself. Okay. And Elon put in 50 million. But the gist of it is he has experience now being in space, and he was the commander of the Inspiration 4. And if you want, that Netflix has a 4-part documentary on the Inspiration 4 mission, and it's interesting to watch. So after that mission, he created the Polaris Dawn, and what that is he has reserved 2 crewed flights on the Crew Dragon, one of which will happen this the first quarter of next year, and they're going to take the Dragon higher than any other orbital flight. Now, obviously, Apollo went higher because Apollo went to the moon, and obviously the moon's in orbit around. But before that, the highest one was a Gemini flight, and so he's going to go higher than Gemini in the Crew Dragon. And they are going to go, they're going to do EVA spacewalks to prove out the SpaceX EVA suit that they're bringing along with them. And everybody will have to be in a suit, whether they take a spacewalk or not, because once they open the door, the cabin, will have no atmosphere. So, and they're going to do lots of other experiments. They're also promoting St. Jude again. But this came about when Russia started the war in Ukraine, and everything started going back and forth. And then Roscoson said, we can get out of the ISS, and how would you guys boost it? And then Elon just put back SpaceX. And so then the thing came around of saying, well, if you can boost the entire International Space Station using a Dragon, it would probably not be a Crew Dragon. It would have been a cargo Dragon, but they're both the same. They're basically the same. Obviously, the Crew Dragon has more environmental stuff in it. The cargo Dragon doesn't have the toilet and stuff like that. But anyway, so then now that Jared is having bought another 2 Crew Dragon flights, and we already know what the first one's doing, but he doesn't have a plan at the moment of what the second one's doing. So he proposed to boost the Hubble spacecraft, and it'll be on his dime. In other words, the rocket launch and the crew, which would be his crew, would cost nothing for NASA. It will be free. They will take the current orbit that it's in, which is about 535 or 534 kilometers up at the moment, and reboost it up to the original 600. And if they do that, then obviously it'll last a heck of a lot more years. So let's go to the next slide here. So right now they propose on doing the docking with Hubble using the soft docking adapter, and that was installed by Mission 4 in 2009. So, and the reason they put that there was so they could bring in another spacecraft to deorbit the shuttle. So right now the shuttle is incapable of deorbiting in a way that we can control it. So they're saying, well, if you can boost it, instead of boosting it down or taking it down, why don't you boost it up? But so they're saying, let's do the Crew Dragon and we'll do this. And then they said, well, gee whiz, if you're going to connect to it, what if you connected and you added to it some reaction wheels? So it would be on the outside. So when the reaction wheels fail inside the Hubble, you can still use the reaction wheels that you just connected to that docking port. And then they're saying, well, if you're there, what would it be to do any maintenance or upgrade tasks? So they do have they had a conference, which is on YouTube, but it was just a voice conference. And every time they were asked a question, after, they all gave their statements and then they had questions and answers, and virtually every answer had the exact same, slightly worded different, but the same thing was, well, we're looking into that. They wouldn't say yes or no or anything. They would just say, this is what the study is a 6-month study to test, to see what can and can't be done, what's it capable of and whatever, and how much would it cost? And well, the launch wouldn't cost you anything, and so that's where the SpaceX proposal is right now. And to give you an idea, the Hubble is 43.5 feet long. The Dragon is 26.7, not quite 27 feet long. So the Hubble is twice as big, and it's a little bit more than twice as big because it's also wider. Well, when I say wider, it's 4.2 meters, not in this with the solar arrays, but the mirror is 2.4 meters, and then and you have to add a few inches on the outside of that for the the skin of the telescope and stuff. So really, even if you just said 3, the diameter of the Dragon is 4. So Dragon is wider, but not like only half the length. So, but when you really think about a cruise ship going into port and you have a tugboat, that tugboat's not even close to being the same size as that cruise ship, and that tugboat pushes it in place. And this would be the same idea. They will use the Dragon as a tugboat to push it back up into a higher orbit. And then the problems. Obviously, the Hubble was never designed to be reboosted. And then the question is can the optics remain aligned during the shaking and all of that stuff after the boost? Now, it was designed to be, the the shuttle spacecraft, when it launched it, there was a lot of shaking involved. I mean, especially when you had the solid rocket boosters. There's a lot of, you can see at any shuttle flight, you see the astronauts are being bounced around a lot. I mean, but that was in its launch mode. It is no longer in its launch mode. I don't know. So that's what they're looking at. They're saying, how much of this can we lock down to get it as close to launch mode as possible? Because the question is we would hate to kill the shuttle, kill the Hubble, by boosting it, making it unusable. So then if anybody watches Scott Manley, he's a YouTube video. He's mostly into rockets and stuff. And he suggested that they can't connect to it using the front docking port of the Dragon, because the cap, which opens up, doesn't open up enough to connect to the Hubble. And I've been looking at that, and I'm saying, well, it would be close, but I think it can. But anyway, that's another thing they're looking at. And then let's just pretend that Scott is right. I said, well, what if you could make it that the docking, is there enough room in that cap to make the docking port 6 inches bigger? I mean, further away from, and they'd have to use a different docking port anyway, because the docking port that the Dragon has is the one, the latest and greatest that they have for the ISS, and they have a downgrade to the Hubble, and so the Dragon's adapter is different. And the other thing is Scott Manley said, well, we just connect from the back, and I'm going, yeah, but all the sensors are in the front of the shuttle, or front of the Dragon to connect. So, and if we do not boost the Hubble Space Telescope, it has a 50% chance of re-entering the atmosphere in 2037. So if we don't do anything, it's coming down. So, but obviously that's 2037 is a ways away. So the question is how much time, do we want to wait between this and everything? So anyway, here's a good picture of I got this from NASA, Dr. State, the site, and I got this one from NASA also. This is them looking outside the ISS, and they took a picture of it before it connected. But he's saying that the cap could hit the and I'm just going, well, if it's only 8 feet in diameter, I know the 14 feet is including the solar arrays, but it's only about 8 feet for the telescope itself. So I think it'll clear it, but I could be wrong. And these are the references. If you want to do the voice teleconference, you go to earthsky.org and you can listen to the teleconference they had. And the rest is where I got, there's not a lot of information we have, because like I said, every answer was, well, that's what we're looking into. That's what we're looking. So I was going, they didn't answer any questions. And I really think that if they dock with this, they'll do it from the front. And if they do it from the front, the only way to get out of the spacecraft then would be the side door, or the door that they used to enter the spacecraft originally while it's, on the launch pad. So something to think about. And then I think that if they wanted to actually make, some repairs or something like that, then they would want NASA NASA scientists, or astronauts there. And then the question is Jared willing to pay for that? Or, or maybe there is no extra cost by adding a seat or two, because he's saying, I'm sending up 4 astronauts, myself and 3 others. We will gladly boost this to, for you. But I don't think he's saying I'm willing to give up seats, that I paid, millions of dollars for NASA astronauts. So maybe he will, because, he's thinking about the benefit of Hubble. The Hubble is the most loved thing ever put into orbit. And we're hoping that Webb will take its place eventually. But right now, the Hubble, you think about it, previously, they canceled the last mission because, of the last shuttle accident. And then it took a writing campaign and everything to saying that we want them to, and the astronauts were willing to do it. So they eventually put it back, so 125 repaired the shuttle. So that's there. I just want you to know that they're really truly thinking about pushing the shuttle up there, or Hubble up there, to increase its space time, increase its long. So that's my announcement. Okay, any questions? But mostly I can just say is they're looking into it.
Yeah, Gary, I have a question. This is Frank.
Yeah.
Has there been any conversation about the feasibility of constructing an adapter to make the 2 docking ports? I mean, I understand the problem with the cap, and maybe have an ejectable cap, or, some other solution, in that regard. And then regarding the Dragon, what's the sensitivity of the throttling? I mean, you expressed concern about applying too much force and misaligning the optics, but what's the time frame? I mean, could it just be boosted slowly with low force?
Right. Then that's the object is I honestly, the way I envision it is we would slowly connect, and they can do that. I mean, if you watch them connect to the ISS, it's the last 20 feet are painfully slow, and that's fine. I mean, they're going to get there, and it connects. And so I really don't think that the connecting to it, and I really think that they can do those micro bursts of, just barely get it going, and then eventually get it going faster. And I really think that they can do that without jostling it around too much.
Well, yeah, if the thrust, if they did small bursts, it seemed like it would take a while for the resonance to dissipate, then they could boost a little more and, minimize the, the deflection that might occur because of the force being applied to the the Hubble.
Right. Okay, I'm going to stop my share here. I really think that while they're looking into it, I think this is a very doable thing. And what I envision, what I think that what they will do is, right now they have, not NASA, but companies have sent up other spacecraft that have attached to a spacecraft that's in geosynchronous orbit. And what it does is they actually attach to the main bell of the rocket, and the reason is there's 2 reasons for them to do this. one, the rocket has run out of fuel, or is at the very end of its fuel life. And therefore they would have to, when a geosynchronous satellite is at the end of life, it has just enough fuel to boost it to a higher orbit. And it gets to a higher orbit and it's now in the graveyard. They call it a graveyard orbit. And it just stays there. Well, instead, this other spacecraft comes from below it. It attaches to the rocket bell, the nozzle bell. Okay. And in it has more propellant and its own rockets, and it has its own gyros, because a lot of them, they're not necessarily totally out of fuel, but their gyros are failing. So instead of sending up this big, huge honking communications thing that cost $1 billion, they can send up a $50 million reaction wheel and fuel to keep it where it needs to be. And it, of course, it cost them $100 million for the rocket, but that's a heck of a lot cheaper than having $1 billion satellite, remade, and it's a heck of a lot faster too. And they've done that. So I envision the exact same thing, them to create a module that connects to the spacecraft to Hubble, that has more reaction wheels. And I don't know if Hubble has any fuel. And the reason for that is, if you don't want to create an atmosphere around Hubble. So at least you would have new reaction wheels. Hubble has 6 reaction wheels, 3 regular and 3 enhanced. And the enhanced ones were put in there by the last shuttle servicing mission in 2009. And they are, the 3 enhanced ones are still good and they're still going. So, but, I would have backups. So that's what I envision them doing, is connecting to the Hubble, putting that package on the back of Hubble with the reaction wheels and boosting it to 600 kilometers, and which is 450 miles up, and then detach from it, saying our work is done here, and coming back home, or them going to a lower orbit and them continuing on having their fun. So, and then the next, so that's the first mission of Polaris Dawn, is to test out the space suits and go high, and lots of other things they're going to do inside, lots of other experiments. The second one is proposed to reboost the shuttle. The third one and final one of this Polaris Dawn, they only said they had 3 missions unless they extend it. It will be the first crewed flight of Starship. So Jared will be the commander of that too, and he's helping pay for that. So, like I said, he's a billionaire, and he's between these 4 missions. You think about it, he's already had 1 mission with Inspiration 4. He's probably spending about $1 billion of his own money on those missions. So that's all the information. I just think it's exciting to get Hubble up there for an additional 20 years.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So and Hubble did take a shot of DART, which he's going to talk about later on. So we have so Hubble's being used, even though we've got the new Webb out there. Hubble the demand has not decreased for Hubble, you know? So, any other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, all right, so we're gonna